So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself to get started? Where you live? What do you do for work? What do you do for fun? All of that good stuff.
So I live in Alberta, St. Albert, Alberta,
Mhm.
and I'm a geomatics field ops manager.
I
So
don't know what that means.
I manage the field operations of a surveying company.
Okay.
Did surveying for like 12 years of my life. Well, 14 years of my life if I include the assistant time, and went on to become an executive director for a not-for-profit. Then I ran a podcast for a little while. Then I went into the sales business for a little while. And then my roots were calling me back. And I went back to the survey field, just not in the field anymore. I get to sit in the office and help facilitate folks to get to work and the equipment that they use and manage time off and so on and so forth. So I work in the oil field effectively in the survey capacity.
What was
Um,
your podcast on?
So I did a podcast on addiction. It was called Life on Life's Terms. I am God willing, I'll be 10 years sober August 15th of
That's
this year.
soon. That's
Yeah,
soon.
so there was me and a good friend of mine, we embarked on the podcast, and unfortunately he succumbed to addiction
Oh, I'm
and
sorry to hear
passed
that.
away. Yeah, it was very, very unfortunate. And it was time to call the show a wraps. And yeah, so that's, I guess, the unfortunate side of addiction
Mhm.
is there's a lot of loss and there's a lot of wins. But the
Mhm.
loss is kind of, that's happens more than we like to think, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely seeing a lot of that in BC right now. I don't know if you know that we're from BC, but it's amazing. 10 years. That's well, I mean, it's June 15th now. So in 2 months, you'll have a huge milestone. I hope that you
I
celebrate
I
it.
was actually just at a convention in Lethbridge, Alberta, where I was
Okay.
a keynote speaker at that convention for Cocaine Anonymous. And in the room alone, there was 150 years of sober time. So what they do is they call out like how many people have 40 years, and then like 5 people might stand up and go stand in line, and they keep calling it out to the hour of the day, and we all get up, and then they basically add all of our time up. There's about 150 hours sitting in that room, which is pretty amazing to see. Like, we
Mhm.
are the majority, like the sober people are the majority. It is the unfortunate few, as we say in the program that I've subscribed myself to, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty. And I was an addictions counselor at a homeless shelter here in Edmonton for a little while when I was an executive director for another company. um Very, very familiar with with addiction and what it can cause. So some of the things I like doing, I box. I do go hiking quite often. I like hunting and fishing and all of those kind of recreational things outside. And I actually came to know Cronometer from the podcast. It was encouraged to me. We did a what do you want to call it? Like health and wellness month.
Mhm.
And I've dealt with obesity my entire life. The only time I was in half decent shape was when I was using drugs and fighting.
Mhm.
So to say. So like my BMI was really almost optimal at that time. So it's been a struggle for me to really dial that in. As much as I know what I should do and what I shouldn't do, it can be difficult. And Chronometer has definitely helped in that capacity to keep track. And yeah, so yeah, that's where I was first kind of introduced to the app.
Yeah, I think that we all know what is best. And then there's obviously like lifestyle plays a role. Like I know that I shouldn't be eating a bunch of candy, but that doesn't stop me sometimes. So there's what we do know and then what we actually do. And hopefully, we move the needle a little bit there. But
Yeah, yeah.
so someone recommended that you started tracking in Chronometer. Do you know who mentioned that to you?
It was actually a U of A student. She had written I forget her name off the top of my head. I could send it to you if you want. But she wrote I think it was an article about the biology of your body and your ancestral DNA and how it mixes with what we eat. So she was coming from an Aboriginal side where wheat, so on and so forth, wasn't maybe the best thing for her diet, because it wasn't natural to her DNA and her ancestry. And she stuck more to a ketogenic diet or even paleo at sometimes, sometimes in her diet. And she did very, very well with that diet. I've done everything. I've done keto, vegetarian, vegan,
Me too.
paleo, and then did like throw it on the wall and I'll eat it, like whatever it was, right? And I'm not saying that my BMI is in a great place today, but it's a heck of a lot better because of the app. Like for sure, like I literally use the app before I eat things to see how it balances out before I actually say that I ate it. Right?
No, I think that's so great though. One of our guests we just had on the podcast was talking about mindfulness, and people think that tracking can be, like tracking is a barrier. Just the time you put in is a barrier to knowing about your nutrition. And he's like, I actually think that tracking is part of the mindfulness process. Like you're thinking about the food you're eating, you're making better choices, like you're living in that moment. I'm like, what a great way to look at it. So
yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head what your longest Cronometer streak is? Do you know?
A year. I want a
Is it?
full year. Yeah, every day. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a full year. Yeah.
That is amazing. What did you learn about your nutrition in that time?
I suck at fats and I really like carbs. And I probably don't get enough vegetables in my diet. I was probably like really good when I was like thinking about being when I was practicing vegetarian and veganism, right? Like very, very good then. And then I just swung to the other side of the whole spectrum. And then, but I did learn over that year, my ups and downs, even though I'll put it this way, the times that I was very, very little, I was tracking, but I was still tracking, was the times that I was like messing up. Those were the times when, I'm not going to put in this burger from Wendy's, or I'm not going to like say I got a Frosty from wherever, right? The times that my tracking was lower, that was when I wasn't doing as well as I should have or I could have. So I learned that from over the year. And then the times that I was like putting all my protein shakes in, my workouts, like everything, I was optimal and I was actually losing weight. My BMI was coming down and all of that stuff. But I did notice too that there's a hormone issue that needed to be rectified also, because no matter what I did for a while, it didn't work for me. So imagine this, I did Ozempic, and one of the questions that was asked for me on Ozempic was, do you track what you eat? And I said, of course I do. And I actually showed them the app, and that's what got them to say, okay, you can go for Ozempic. But unfortunately, Ozempic didn't work for me. It did not curb my appetite whatsoever. And I ended up having to like find that testosterone was the next best thing for me. So I'm on a TRT therapy. However, my wife right now, she is on Ozempic and utilizing utilizing the app. And she's starting to notice that she's very, very hungry, but she's able to see the week before when she was at 2 milligrams or whatever it was, that she's not eating anything different this week compared to last week. It's the medication dosage has changed. And she's like, wow, now I'm really faced with like how hungry I can be. And it's almost like the reverse of the diet. She gets to get all of the awesome stuff right away in the beginning because the medication is what's helping her. And then now that the medication is being dissipated, she's starting to see how difficult it is. But she also now knows in her head, like, I don't like 1,400 calories a day works for me, right? Because the medication was working. And and so now the app has been very, very beneficial for her in that capacity. And then also in my capacity, seeing what I need to dial up. Like I need a high protein diet. I've learned that from the app. High protein for me is optimal. High carbs, I'm hungry all of the time. Like that's just what it is for me. But yeah.
Yeah, I think protein is very satiating, and it's awesome that you're learning about what works for you. I think that that's the thing that we love best here at Cronometer. And you can say it, by the way, however you want. Like I say Cronometer, but a lot of people say Cronometer.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer there. Yeah. But it's just learning what works for you. You know what I mean? And that can be any kind of diet. We support everything. So it's cool to see you guys using it to tweak what works for you. And protein is getting a ton of limelight lately for a myriad of reasons, really, but it's definitely the go-to macro these days.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through how you use the app? Do you mostly use the app? Have you ever used the web version?
So I am mostly on my phone. If rarely or even not even use the website version. I load every day. So my diet's very rigid, only because I know if I step outside of the rigidness of my diet, I'll really mess up. And then I don't even call it a diet anymore. I just call it like the eating plan, because it's just the way that it has to be for me. Diet isn't forever, and an eating plan is. So the things that are like always the same are like my protein shake. My breakfast is pretty much the same. And then I have one day a week where I allow myself, like I'll fast for 18 hours in order to have like a Wendy's burger after a workout. Right. And then that's almost the reward on a Friday. Right. But then from Monday to Thursday, I literally just load the whole week. And the only things that really change is like maybe I didn't have enough time to make a pasta or something on a Tuesday because I allow myself to indulge that way. I'll just change it for a salmon. So I may change meals, but it's still within the same calorie range and the same protein range. And so I really utilize the macros every day so that it sits in the same consistent way. So my body has that consistency of nutrients all the way through. I just realized recently that I can also put in my vitamins. So now I'm nailing out the vitamins through it, and it's really I'm really able to see how much all of it is playing into my system. I guess the one thing I wish I could do is maybe my testosterone and to see how much that would impact the burn within. But again, like, I guess that's a little bit difficult because of dosaging and stuff like that, right? But yeah, that would be the one thing.
That would have to be tested. You could, if you knew your levels, you could actually create a custom biometric for testosterone, and then you could log it, and then you could chart it. But because like that's something we don't really track, that's the way you'd have to go. We actually just got a blog series that's coming out on ways to naturally increase your testosterone production as well. So there's a lot in there about like nutrient timing and different macronutrients. So I can send that to you after. It might be worthwhile. Registered dietitian. That'd be super cool. Yeah, registered dietitian wrote it for us, so it's right up to snuff and right on point for you.
Well, and that's the kicker when it comes to nutrition, diet, and food and everything. Like that month on the podcast, I must have read. So I've gone to school, so I must have read like 1,500 pages in a month, and nowhere was I anywhere near an answer for a meal plan that would work for me for life. And I felt even further away after that month than I did in the beginning of the month, because it's crazy how impacted the whole industry is by money, really, right? Like, and how money generates, like, sugar super good for you all of a sudden, right? Like if anybody's looked at some of the food that is encouraged for us to eat, you kind of got to scratch your head and think, wow, really, Fruit Loops? Like, is that really good for me? Or is that cereal really good for me? And maybe it is, I don't know, but I know when I eat a lot of sugar, my stuff is pretty messed up. So like, just even like how I feel, right? So yeah, like that was challenging, trying to find information that wasn't skewed, or information that wasn't diluted by some sort of money, right?
I think that that's one of the biggest the challenges with nutrition right now is, and I think it's getting better. So we have a nutrition scientist that works for Cronometer, and she's on maternity leave right now, but she's so knowledgeable, and she's like, nutrition scientists, it's really new, and we're constantly learning things. So I think we're on the precipice though of really getting a better understanding of what's going to work. Like, I don't know if you've been paying attention to anything on gut health lately and that kind of thing, but we're getting a better handle on it for sure. So I'm hopeful in the next 10 years that there is a definitive answer that's not driven by any kind of industry choices that kind of teaches us about what's going to be optimal. But I think the answer is, and you kind of touched on this already, it's going to be different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 100% it is. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
already kind of touched on this, but just to reiterate, just curious how you actually log. So you log things beforehand. Is that what you said? You like for
Yeah.
the week, you kind of meal plan.
Yeah.
So when do you do that? Like on
So Sunday,
Sunday?
yeah, usually Sunday, and then on the fly, I'll mix things up. So I have a base calorie range of so my calorie range is 1,800 calories a day.
Mhm.
And out of that 1,800 calories, I sit for about 800 is already planned. This way, the other portion I can mix and match on the fly if need be. But if it's like, let's say I had lasagna or something on a Monday, well, then Tuesday and Wednesday for dinners is going to be the same thing replicated over and over again, right?
Right.
What I love the most is being able to put recipes in.
Mhm.
Like from the internet, I can just snapshot it and like it reads it, throws it in, knows how much I'm putting into my body. I love that. Like it's not, I've used other apps and you had to put everything in like one at a time and it's become so
Yes.
tedious. And this is so much better. Copy, paste, boom, it's in there. You have it, you know what it's doing for you and all of that stuff. Or even if you're going to make it. Like sometimes now I'll even put recipes in just to see people, what is this actually going to give me for me? Because I have everything dialed in for me through the app. And I realized, you know what, maybe this just isn't for me. It's not going to be it's not going to give me any benefit to my diet. So I'm not going to go forward with it. More so for my wife. My wife's been a vegetarian since she's 8 years old and she's in her 40s now. And yeah, so she needs a lot of protein. And
Mhm.
so for her, it's been a blessing in that sense, like trying to get her protein up. And it's very difficult for her. So she's using a lot of
Mhm.
BCAAs right now and stuff like that. So even between, and we're always like her and I, we're a pretty good team that way, like saying, well, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And we try to make meals together. But yeah, so I use the app a lot in that capacity in order to like find out what I'm doing for the week. It's a planning tool for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's amazing that you're, having like the foresight to look at the numbers and see what works for you. I think that's incredible. So you kind of also touched on the thing that you pay most attention to, is tracking protein. Is that right? That's your primary, but you're starting to pay attention to nutrient tracking too. How are you doing
Yeah.
that in the app? Are you looking at a daily
So
report or?
I'm just scanning the barcodes off of the containers that I'm putting in.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is if you go online, like so sometimes, so in Canada, can't get so I tried to try on it supplements, for instance, but maybe I don't know if I should really get it. So you can get the barcode online, and then I get the app to scan the barcode through the picture, and then it tells me if it's going to be beneficial for me by the reading or whatever. So I do that quite often because it's quite expensive to order supplements and nutrients from outside of Canada. Like Canada has a very small group of people who can give nutrients and
Mm,
supplements in Canada. There's not a heck of a lot. It's not a free range open thing, right? So
mhm.
so if I am going to buy supplements outside of the country, I definitely use the app to see if it's going to be worth my while to even do so. And then even when I go to the supplement store, I scan to see if it's worth it. So I'm like ready to go on another vitamin binge here to like see what I should add in order to put into my diet.
I've never heard of anyone scanning off their computer, and I think that's absolutely amazing. I'm gonna have to try that sometime. Are you trying to hit your all targets then? Like when you're
Yeah.
talking about, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like every day, I try to hit. So like right now I'm consistently at 102% on carbs. So I'm like
Mm,
2% always over. And it like, I guess like being an addict or somebody who's pretty competitive, I'm like, shit, excuse me, I could really try to get that 2% down.
mhm.
Even like when I watch a movie, like, when they say, I don't know, some show or something's going to take you 14 hours to do it. I'll bet somebody that it's going to take me 13 hours and 45 minutes because that's just the kind of person. Even
Yeah.
though it said 14 hours, I'm pretty sure it'll take me 13:45, right? So that 2%'s been really kicking my butt lately, but I've been really good with protein. I didn't realize how much vitamin B12 does for you. That has
Mhm.
been a game changer. Vitamin D, I was having some serious pains in my shoulders and stuff. Vitamin D has sucked that all away. No
Mhm.
more joint pain. And that's again like figuring out how much vitamin B I can actually take, how much vitamin D I can actually take. And that's all because of the app. Like the app has
Mhm.
shown me this is how much you should be taking, and you might not want to exceed this. Even my NAD, I started taking NAD, and that's been a game changer also. So I would encourage anybody, if you're wanting to put that stuff into your system, it's a worthwhile adventure. It's kind of strange like at first, but you'll get over it after like the second or third time you use it.
I think it's great that you're tracking your individual nutrients. That's my hope when people sign up for our app, because a lot of people, I don't know about, your nutrition knowledge background, but I started tracking calories and then macros and then micros. And I think it's this progression that I hope all of our users are on. So
Yeah.
hearing you talk about this, I'm like, it's working.
Yeah.
So great. That's so great, Justin. What advice would you give someone new to tracking with Cronometer?
Watch the video on macros. Big
Okay.
deal. Yeah, that's a big deal because I think wrapping your head around macros is easier than counting calories once you get it.
Hmm.
And then you start looking at food as what is the substance that I need out of the meal. And
Hmm.
then you're not thinking about like, well, if I have rice today, that's 500 calories. And if I have this, that's another 400 calories. You're actually looking at it as I need greens, I need salad, I need a steak, I need maybe some potatoes,
Hmm.
right? As a starch or whatever it is, right? So you actually start looking at your plate as a macro plate as
Hmm.
opposed. So I think that's the big thing. And it like watch any video about macros because I felt like by the fourth video, the light finally turned on for me. And then
Hmm.
I was able to say, okay, so what's micros? What's my vitamins? And then it leads you almost down that rabbit hole. And you start looking at your body as, okay, well, this is a tuned thing. This isn't like mouth pleasure doesn't matter,
Hmm.
right? Like, sure, I like a burger like the next person, or I like going out to dinner like anybody else. But I started looking at food as like, this is what my body wants. And then how do I feel? So in my own journal, like on my notes on the application itself, I actually put how I felt that day after the meal. So I've found with carbohydrates, I wanted to fall asleep.
Hmm.
Whereas I found with intermittent fasting, and this is where I was really messing up with my intermittent fasting. I was just doing it every day, 16 to 18, 14 hours a day. That wasn't good. You need to have breakfast in order for your body to say, hey, let's burn these calories up. And then all of a sudden you're like super hungry after breakfast. After you broke I'll do a 3-day, 16-hour fast. And then on the fourth day, I'll break that consistency, and I'll have my breakfast at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden by noon, I'm hungry. But was never like that for me ever in life. And again, like I had another fasting app that I used to use, and now it's all under one. So I don't
Hmm.
have to do any of that. I guess the other thing is too, though, is like just editing my fast because sometimes I go further than what I've already logged into the application itself. So I think like that would be kind of optimal in order to be able to bump it, but I just kind of keep it on like in my head what I've done. But yeah, so all of that being able to be tracked under one house is super, super good. I don't have any wearables that
Mhm.
are connected because I just like, that's not my thing. I don't have a watch. As soon as we had cell phones, I was pretty happy that I don't have to wear a watch anymore. So it went away. Um, but I put everything in, like the amount of time that I was boxing or the amount of time that I was lifting weights. I like the fact that it will even do your occupation. So like there's times that I do construction work and I can walk some days up to 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers in a day in the heat. And like I can track all of that through this thing. And it tells me what my deficiency is from the work. And then I still sustain myself within the calories that I've allowed myself for the day. And then I know I'm actually in a true deficit.
Mhm.
So it's been game changing, way easier than trying to figure it all out and all of that stuff. And now I'm actually starting to, like, back when I was fighting, I could look at things and know about how many calories it was, and I would weigh it in my hands almost. And I'm almost able to do that again because of the app. So
Mhm.
I know, like, if I forget to track something, I'm not gonna go and binge entirely. Like popcorn is a godsend. Right? Like 50 grams
Yes.
of popcorn is a lot,
Yeah.
and you feel sustained by it when
Mhm.
you look at it compared to like 50 grams of chips.
Oh yeah.
Popcorn's a much better choice
It has way
for,
more
for me.
fiber too. It
Yeah,
actually has quite a
yeah,
bit of fiber. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It was
It's definitely
really
a good
good.
snack. Let's talk about how Cronometer has impacted your health a little bit. Have you set out any goals in particular that you've achieved through using the app?
Yeah. So what? Remember, I was talking about my percentages.
Hmm.
That's all because of the app. Like I would have never known that it was like at 157% eating pierogies for my carbs, right?
Yeah.
Prior to. And then when I ate like, if I ate like 3 cheeseburgers or something, I would have never known that I was way over fats. Like I would have
Hmm.
never known that. I was free balling all of the time eating, like just
Yeah.
never really knowing what is a restraint. And like, unfortunately, I grew up very, very poor. And so in my family, you ate in order to survive. You didn't eat
Hmm.
because of nutrition, right? Like for a
Hmm.
long time when I was a kid, I used to tell all my friends that I would go to the restaurant every night eating, but I didn't know that it was like I was going to the Hope Mission or like the soup kitchen. My mom just told me it was McDonald's. I had no idea that it was any different, right? So that was kind of the survival that I was eating all of the time as a kid. And like eating bread before bed was fine because we didn't want to be hungry being poor. Like if there's anything that you could give somebody, that you give them like cake or whatever it is because you had it
Hmm.
um, in that capacity. So changing my eating behavior was very, very difficult because then when I went to fighting, it was feast or famine. Either you're cutting weight to make a fight or you're bulking up after a fight. And so then your body just gets really messed up from that. And then with the application in my life, it changed all of that. It was able to give me some sort of structure and stability on what I was supposed to be putting in my body. And like I said, I would have never been able to make those goals if it wasn't for the app. Like I would never, how would I know? Like, and other applications they're not as good at dialing in your body with what you're about to put in. So yeah. And actually I know 4 or 5 people who've changed because of like changed to this app from another app because I was like, yeah, this has been way better than anything that I've tried. So yeah.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And then when you know
Mhm.
it completely changes the game.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is the most positive change you've made in regard to your overall health? Obviously, dialing in your macros is significant for you. Is there anything else that Chronometer has really taught you about?
I've been like dropping weight, but not in a like spiral down. It's been like a consistent down. So it's
Mhm.
something that's actually achievable and maintainable. Like when I was fighting, I
Mhm.
could lose 15 to 20 pounds in a week. Easy. And that's like sweating. That's not a safe way of doing anything. And then it's no wonder why my body would double up calories later on in life because it always thought it was either starving or it was doing well, right?
Mhm.
Um, So now, yeah, like I've been able to comfortably lose about 1.5 to 2 pounds every week. And then I
Awesome.
feel like when I get to the weight that I need to be at, I'll be able to sustain a diet that, or a eating plan that is for life, because I'll
Mhm.
know what my body is achieving out of what I'm putting into it.
Yeah, I think that even when people hit maintenance, I think that tracking is still so important. I know that for me, like I will slide off the rails and talking to some of our users, like you just revert back to old habits, but Chronometer can always keep you in check. It's amazing that you're having success that way. Was there any particular vitamins or minerals that you were surprised that you were deficient in at all?
B12, B12. I was blown
Hmm.
away. And what B12 did for me,
Hmm.
uh, I don't need as much coffee. I'll tell you what,
Hmm.
like if I take B12 first thing in the morning, I'm doing pretty good until like, and I don't need a pick me up anymore.
Yeah.
The other one too that I was surprised at is how much vitamin D I can actually take,
Hmm.
until like it actually says that you're maxed out. Like, and I think that's been a game changer for my joints and stuff. And the other one would be it's a spice. I can't think of the name of it. It's orange. Oh, turmeric.
Turmeric. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, turmeric. Yeah, putting that into my diet has been game changing also. Like inflammation is gone. I broke my back, and
Mm.
years and years ago, and inflammation can actually render me not walking, like literally on the floor, not walking, and asking my wife for a bedpan pretty well.
Mhm.
And that's changed all now. Like I don't take nearly as much Tylenol, nearly as much Advil as I used to in order to get through the day. So yeah.
I think that's amazing. Our most recent podcast guest was actually just talking about turmeric and inflammation, because before it was like maybe like it does this work, does it not? But now there's a lot of science that suggests that it does. So obviously you're getting your health very dialed, Justin. It's super impressive that you're diving that deep. So you've touched on that you have used fasting and obviously you schedule your macros and stuff. What would you say is your number one favorite Chronometer feature?
The recipe piece that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I like to cook. I like to cook a lot. And I was blown away that I could just, and I like to, so my big thing is I'll just go on the internet and start cruising like ethnicities in order to see what they eat. And then I'm like, hey, can I cook that? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I'm doing that, I can like put it through the app itself and then see if I should, or if it's going to be an indulgence, or if it's something I could almost incorporate in my diet or my meal plans going forward, right? Like I didn't think a goulash would actually be something that I would incorporate in my winter meal plans, but I have, and it's not bad for me. Whereas like there's these German potato dumplings. I wish I could have that in my meal plan every week, but probably not. And it's an indulgence every once in a while.
Yeah.
A little piece of bread in the middle, and it's pretty well deep fried, and
Hmm. Yum.
um, yeah, exactly, right? So
Hmm.
so yeah, so that's what I'm probably the most grateful for on the app is I don't feel like I'm out there just trying to figure it out anymore. I
Hmm.
have somebody or something by my side kind of saying, yeah, probably you don't want to do that. Or even when I schedule that Wendy's Dave Thomas burger, right? It's a Friday thing, and I can look at the app itself and then know that that's coming. And as long as I do my boxing and my everything throughout the week, Friday is going to be my breakdown day. And I'm not like freaking out for a bag of chips in the middle of the week and going back to those comfort foods. I am an emotional eater, and sometimes life throws life's things at you when you want to get out of your head almost and like go and enjoy a chocolate bar or something. Um, but I've been able to stay on focus and on track with the app itself for the most part. Like popcorn, that's how I learned popcorn was better than chips. So yeah, when I'm feeling down now, sometimes I may do that.
I
But
think
yeah,
it's I think it's amazing that you are incorporating foods that you still love though. I think that's so important because although obviously we need the nutrients from food, I think it's really important that we enjoy our food as well, right?
yeah.
So it's good that you're working those things in. You mentioned that you did switch a couple of people over. What
Yeah.
is like your main hook to get people to switch? Like when you're like, check this one
No,
out. Like,
so I said I was in sales before, and
right.
I'm not gonna kid you. Like my closure rate is 7 out of 10 on a sales call, right? So
Nice.
if you're gonna be face to face with me, I'm probably gonna knock it out of the park, and you're gonna walk away buying an RV that day. Unfortunately for you, or fortunately for you, however you want to look at it, right?
I love camping, so that's great.
Yeah.
But
So actually, when it comes to the app, I don't even sell it. I
Mhm.
literally just show them what I've done on the app, and they're done. Like they're okay, let me try this. And then they'll ask me, is it worth paying for? I've been a paying member for a while. And I tell them, or yeah, for a while now. And I tell them, I said, it's worth paying for because now the things that are going to be revealed is even more so in depth. Like I can't even remember, like the app is already pretty good before I paid for it. And then when I paid for it, it just gave me so much more.
Oh,
So everybody that I have asked to try, so like my sister-in-law, she's paying for it. My wife's coworker's paying for it. One of my coworkers is paying for it. And it's not even, like I said, I didn't sell them on it. I just showed
mhm.
them, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I get out of it. And then they're like, oh, wow, it does this too. So it almost like sells itself on the individual need because it's so individualized without the application itself trying to shoehorn you into something that you're not. It
Mhm.
allows you to be who you are, right? So that's why I think the person from my podcast endorsed the product to me, was because they were like I was huge. I mean, I'm talking my BMI was like 43%. It was bad. I'm not saying that it's any, like it's still pretty bad now. Like I'm still considered obese, but not as obese as what I was. And a lot of that is like the struggle, but this application helping me through it to get to where I am. And she was the one who said, you need to figure out what's good for you. And the fastest way to do that is with the app.
Mhm.
And she was actually the endorser of the laptop. But unfortunately, my job and my lifestyle is all on the phone. My meetings are on the phone, my clients are on the phone, everybody's on the phone. So that renders me using the phone, and the application itself on the phone is just as good in my opinion on the website. I've seen it on the website,
Mhm.
but the application on the phone is just as good. So yeah.
It's right in
Yeah.
your pocket. It's so easy. It's
Hmm.
so much easier than going to the computer. I completely agree.
Yeah.
If you had to describe your experience with Cronometer in a single word, just one, what would it be?
It's the best. Like it's the best app. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. And then I do just have one more question for you. So obviously you've been a user for a while. In November, we completely rebranded the app and like we
Okay.
changed the logo and the interface. I'm not sure if you noticed that, but if you did, were you shocked? Like what was your honest opinion with the changes that we made?
Didn't even notice.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I didn't even notice, to be honest with you. It's like brand new to me that you guys did that. Yeah, I didn't even notice. I kept using it, and
Mhm.
yeah, I didn't even notice. I guess the one thing too that blew me away just a little while ago, I swiped something from the left side of my screen, and something new
Oh,
popped up. I was like,
yeah.
oh wow, I need to play with this now because that looks brand new to me. So yeah.
There's so much like if you're on a specific diary group, like breakfast, and you swipe to the left, there's like endless possibilities in there.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure if you know about the explode recipes feature. Do you know about that at all?
No, I'm no.
Um,
I'm
okay.
gonna go look now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll love it if you're a recipe guru. So basically what happens is you have a recipe and then you add it to your diary like normal. And then say you were swapping out something, like say you had granola with yogurt and strawberries as your mainstay, but one day you decide to have blueberries instead. You can just swipe explode it and then quickly sub out the one ingredient you changed. You can change the serving size or you can change the food itself. It's like
Oh,
magic. So
that's exciting.
yeah, it will be. I think it'll
Yeah,
make
that's
things
exciting.
a lot easier for you. And then
Yeah.
coming down the pipe, some things that after listening to you how you use the app, It's in beta right now, so it's not available yet, but we're doing repeated foods and that kind of thing. So you can actually go ahead. I eat the same breakfast every single day, and you said that you're oftentimes like doing the same thing. Like you have that 800 calories that is kind of always the same. You can actually schedule the food in advance, which I think will be so great for you because
Yeah.
you're planning ahead. The other option too is you can sign up as a beta tester if you ever really want to get in there. We're always looking to add people, power users is what we call our users like you that are, really well versed with the app. We're always looking for people's advice there. So